fireworks, by the way. Hey, look at that. Nice way to start up. All right, so the Color Wheel Workshop info and Q&A. Um, what is the workshop? I teach this online traditional color wheel workshop. We basically are painting a traditional color wheel, which is what most people grew up, at least in the United States, with red, yellow, and blue as the primaries, and orange, green, and purple or violet as the secondaries. Uh, in the workshop, we get into other color wheels and the use of them and my take on all of it. So, I personally use the traditional color wheel to solve all my problems. It's just a tool. You can use any tool you want to solve problems, and they pretty much all will help you in understanding color. What we're going to do in this is we're going to take and we're going to mix the light to dark version of every color. We're condensing it. I usually do this. I started the first time on a 12-week workshop, then it went down to 8. I'm doing it in 4 because I'm working on another book. So I'm condensing it down to see how 4 weeks goes. But it's the same content. You'll still have access to all the videos and information. Here's the calendar. We meet on June 7th, 14th, 28th, and July 5th. We have a break on June 21st because I'm teaching a workshop, and just it's actually a perfect time to take a break in the middle of the workshop to really get caught up. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of information. Week 1, we start with a value scale, white sphere, and introduction to setting up the color wheel. So we'll set all the information up before we begin. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mix strings every week. A string is just a light to dark version of a color, and then we're going to apply them to an exercise. The purpose of knowledge is action. That's a quote from Aristotle. So we're going to take the concept and then we're going to put it into action. I have videos set up that talk you through the whole process of how I do it. And then I show you how I make a painting, which is the expectation that you will do as well. We break on the 21st, as I said. Week 3 is going to be yellow and green strings. There will be 4 videos to watch. You only have to do one of the exercises. You're welcome to do all 4. It's typically a sphere of yellow and green. So for week 3, you'd be doing a yellow and a green string, and then you'd be taking and applying that to a concept, and then you could do it on a simple object as well. So each week there's up to 4 exercises if you want to. The objective of this is really just to show you the essence of how I kind of unlocked, for me, just the simplicity of color. I think a lot of people make it much more complex than it is. Of course, it's very nuanced, and I get into the nuances of color and the understanding of it. But again, in order to understand anything, I used to quote Albert Einstein, even though I couldn't confirm that he said it. But um, if you understand if you understand something deeply, you could explain it simply. So I try to stay simple and break the concepts down simply, and then you can build complexity off of it. Just like a musician learns scales, we're going to be learning scales. Now, scales are really a light to dark version of a color. They're also sometimes called strings, color strings or color scales. You're basically tying value and color to one another. And you're just learning how to take an object and make it go from light to dark. We'll talk about concepts of where that happens, why it happens. So the general format is this. We meet on Saturdays from 10 to 12. I'm extending it another half hour because we're going over 2 weeks worth of information now, two hues, red and orange on the first week, for example. I'm going to extend it. So we'll have a little bit longer to answer questions. It probably won't go the full 2 hours, but it almost always does. Every time I think it's going to go short, it always goes much longer. We meet 4 Saturdays. I record these and make them available to you to watch right after. Um, in the past, I've allowed for you to keep the Zoom session, and I will continue to do that. But I just ask that you don't share it. All right, so what we do is we begin each session with a slideshow. So I'm going to do like a simple slideshow. It's usually 15, 20 minutes. I always say it's going to be 15, 20 minutes, but I always go way over time. And then, for example, week one, we're going to break down value. We're going to go over different color models, how they've evolved over time. And again, this is just surface. If you want deeper, I would pick up the Oil Painter's Color Handbook, which is the book that I wrote. But we're going to go over three dimensions of color, how we experience color. Some of this stuff you don't particularly need to know. But we're going to go over additive versus subtractive. You're going to hear the nuance of color and how, why you see different models for different things. And then simplifying it, breaking it down into, you know, how to mix a light to dark version of a color. So all of these slides, complementary muting, what does that mean? What are the primary colors depending on the color wheel that we're talking about? The three color wheels that are typically used. What is additive versus subtractive color? And so on and so forth. So there's a complexity that will be added, but the exercises, again, as I said, start off simply. Even two colors, once you add oil to them, will change. So, what I'm trying to show, and again, we don't dig in too much into the details here, but things under microscope, refractive indexes of pigments can actually tell a lot of the story. So let me go back here because this, I think, is a video. You can take two things that nearly look identical. This is Yin blue, and this is ultramarine blue. And when you add the same oil to it, which is just linseed oil, you can see that one almost maintains about the same hue value chroma as when it was in powder form, but this one actually is going to turn black. So pigments are much more complex, and that's really, when it comes to artists trying to understand materials, materials are a big part of what we're after. How do we mix the light to dark version of a color? Do we care so much about light? I think it's a component of it and to understand it. But for the most part, we're going to talk about materials and how to apply concepts to painting. Again, there's things that we're going to talk about like color charts, which I recommend people pick up, like Michael Harding's color chart, because you can then map it and kind of see the colors. Those are actually swatches that Michael wraps on his tubes, and you can actually see what the hue is, value and chroma in mass tone and undertone, which we'll talk about what those terms mean. I'm a big proponent of this. An artist must have his measuring tools not in the hand but in the eye. This is from Michelangelo. And the point of all this is so that you can run freely and learn how to paint with the concepts in your mind, not to have to rely on a tool or a swatch or anything like that. This really allows you to go out and then take nature or whatever it is that you're painting and then riff and have fun expressing yourself. Good painting, good cooking is comparable to good painting, good coloring is comparable to good cooking. Even a good cooking recipe demands taste and repeated tasting while it's being followed. And the best tasting still depends on a cook with taste. I'll share quotes like this. I love Albers. Albers actually lived in Connecticut and taught at Yale. He was a big component of color theory. I think it's called, I got it over there. Uh, I don't know, my mind's going blank. Bradley, you probably remember. On
Interaction of color.
Interaction of color, yeah. So there's plenty of color theory books too that I will quote and talk about. I talk about ways in which you can learn how to keep learning, exercises that you can do if you want to test out your materials. So to recap, I'm just going to go through and show you what we do every week. Week one is to create a value scale, and then we're going to set up the color wheel. Week two, we're going to go over mixing a red string. We're going to mix three of every hue. So for instance, red, you have red, and then you have red orange, and then you have red violet. We're going to mix three strings of each hue. Because we're doing this condensed, we're going to do six strings and then apply one of them to the exercise. However, you will have access to, all the videos on all the spheres. So for week one, we're going to do red and orange, and therefore you'll have six strings. And then I'll have two videos showing how to mix a light to dark version of red, and then how to mix a light to dark version of orange. Week three, we're going to get into yellow and green, and the same thing, how to mix the light to dark version of every color. We're going to talk about things like hue drifting, how to get a color to go accurately, pretty accurately, I shouldn't say perfectly accurate, but how to keep it in the correct hue angle to a degree. And then how to paint with multiple strings, which is where we kind of end the workshop. We'll end on week 4 with mixing a blue string, how to apply that. We're going to talk about materials, as I said. So we're going to go from mineral or um, inorganic pigments into modern or organic pigments. What's the difference between the two? I'll do a whole lecture on how to read a paint label, which I think is super important. In addition, I usually put PDFs in Slack, which is the place in which we are going to host everything. But you'll have the notes for the color strings, which is just general because this is not a formula. Painting is not formulaic. This is the basis of thought. If you want to control it, this is how to control it. And then from here, we can riff once you understand how color works. Here's a color string. And again, this is in the Oil Painter's Color Handbook. So I recommend pick up the book if you don't have it already. That way you can follow along and you'll have the workshop and the book as well. Again, we end with a 10 to 30 minute Q&A. I say that, but it always ends up being about an hour. I dork out, get into color. Briley joins in the dorking as well, like she was just talking about cobalt teal being PB28 and also PG50. All right, each session is recorded so you can watch it over and over. I park it in Slack, so it's locked down. Nobody should be sharing the links with anyone else. This is for you all to be in a space and commingle and talk to one another. It's wonderful to see all the participants come together and then talk to one another and encourage each other as well. If you sign up for the full, I give you feedback. If you do the view only, I don't give you feedback. It's truly just a view only. Again, you'll have access to these recordings for 4 weeks after the end of the class. I post everything in Slack. This is what Slack looks like, which is, it's just a basic workspace so that we can post stuff. It doesn't go on Facebook in a group so that everybody can come in or bots can come in and leave random messages or start fights. This is a place for you to post your work, and then I will give you feedback. And this is pretty much how it works. You post it, I post the video. This is an old class I taught called Skill Building. You click on that, it'll take you to Vimeo, and then you get to watch a video. And then homework submissions are in their own folder, which is me just giving directions on what the assignment is. All the information is here in this one space, the videos, the PDFs. And then it's also a place that if you have a question, you can ask that as well. Here's how the videos look once you submit your work. If you signed up for full, then I give you feedback in the form of a recorded video. Typically, they're about 10 minutes, somewhere around there, 5 to 10 minutes in length. If you do something like a color, the value exercise, it may be on the shorter side, because it's not about color matching. I mean, there's no color matching that happens in this class. If you're expecting to do color matching, you're in the wrong class because I don't do any of that. I'm trying to train the eye to see. And therefore, even when it comes to value, I'm forcing you to be mindful and think of how things sit in relation to one another. There's a calculated way that you can approach painting without the use of a device. And that's what I promote. So, so there's a video. That's where I'll record it. It'll be right under it. And then hopefully you click on the link and check it out. You get to keep the videos. You get to watch everybody else's videos as well. It makes it very much interactive so that you can make it feels like you're in a classroom online. And again, at the end of the day, everyone usually is super nice to one another. And it's great to kind of see everybody else's work and what they're doing. All right, these are for you to download and keep. I delete them after 30 days. So I highly recommend if you do sign up for the class, I'll go over this on the first day, by the way, and I'll show everyone how everything functions. But the demonstration videos that I post and I produce are not downloadable. As I said, you get to keep the Zoom meeting, which is us coming together and I'm playing one of the videos every week. You only get to keep that one that I'm playing, though. You don't get to keep all 4 of them. All right. Please don't share the PDFs. Again, this is how I make a living, and this is also copywritten information. So people should be purchasing the book or taking the class. Giving away videos and stuff like that is not legal, so I recommend you don't do it. Full class first view only. If you sign up for the full class, you'll get feedback. If you don't sign up for the full class and you do the view only, you do not get feedback. I don't have a space to post stuff for anybody in the view only. It takes away from the people that are signed up for the full. Again, you'll have 4 weeks after the last class to download the videos, the Zoom recording and your own personal videos. Again, everybody gets to download the personal videos so you can kind of learn from each other. August 4th is that day. I think it's July 7th is the last day for the class. August 4th is the last day, and then Slack gets erased. Whoops. Why the class? As I said, I think I posted this on Facebook. It's pretty much all I needed to break color down. It's really, instead of getting into the complexities of taking complements and mixing them, we're going to talk about why that doesn't work. But we're also going to talk about places where it actually does work and why people would want to use it. So here's some of my work just to show context. I can't imagine if you're here that you stumbled into a random Zoom session. You probably already know me and my work, maybe have one of my books. But here's just the way that I use color. I love to use color. I'm classically trained. I studied under Jacob Collins and Max Ginsberg. Those are my two big influences, Travis Schlott and also Cami Salas, or two other ones that I study with. Anyway, there's a looseness in the work, there's a playfulness with the color, and it's come with a deep understanding of the principles, the basics of color, which is what I teach now. So anyway, here's some of my work. I paint flowers, I paint martinis, I paint everything. I paint whatever it is I'm interested in painting at the time. My expectations, if you enroll in the class, you'll post your own work. I post this because I've had people post other people's work. And with the internet, now at everyone's fingertips, I could usually find out if are posting somebody else's work. If that happens, you'll get kicked out of class and you won't get a refund. Please do not post work done in previous classes as well. Only post work that's specific to the assignment. You won't share the content. So if you're coming into the class, you're agreeing that you're not going to give out the link to all your friends and family. You'll post the work in the appropriate folders. Briley and I are here to guide you. If you don't, there's not a penalty. I'm not going to send you a ticket in the mail that you have to pay, a color ticket. That would be kind of funny, actually. But we will get you into the right folder. It happens that sometimes the technology side of it gets a little bit harder, frustrating if you're not used to Slack. Again, Briley and I generally, we check in every day, so we'll be helping guide. If you post late, you lose that week's a feedback video because I have to be diligent with my time. I can't get all the videos posted in the last week and then expecting that you're going to get a 10-minute critique on all. So if you miss the week, then you miss the ability to get feedback on the work. And again, please post it in the next week's folder, and therefore, if you combine them together, I'll put them in one video. And again, don't be rude. There's ways in which if you have a question and you feel like it's rude, if you really do think it's rude, then don't ask it. You can ask something privately. Again, Briley and I are here, happy to answer questions. Materials needed. There's going to be a lot of materials in the class. Again, if you have the Oil Painter's Color Handbook, you can just go through the materials list. I have recommendations. That doesn't mean you have to go buy them. You can paint on whatever you want. Somebody in one of the workshops recently painted on cardboard. And I was like, if that's what you want to do, then paint on cardboard. I recommend painting on something a bit more firm, like wood or panels, or even linen sheets. But take everything and then interpret it whatever way you want to. Again, all this stuff is in the Oil Painter's Color Handbook. The colors needed will be posted in the Slack when you sign up. I've just slightly changed a couple of them. Having taught this now, I think for the sixth time, just to keep the cost down, I switched out Cobalt Violet and have just gone into like a cheaper version. I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons of why when you do that, what you're changing. Again, they're in the Oil Painter's Color Handbook. If you have the book, just Bradley, do you know what page it is? You want to look it up? I actually don't even have a copy of my own book, um, which is weird. I don't have the Artist Still Life either. I just have it in my mind, but when it comes to remembering what page things on, I just can't. Anyway, when you register, you'll have access. There's actually links in Slack to buy all this stuff if you want to buy it. You can buy it on Amazon. Amazon's a little more pricey. Jerry's Autorama, if you're in like Connecticut, which is where I am, you can wait for deals where they sometimes give you 10 or 20% off, like they did last week, and I ended up buying more canvas. The cost of paint somewhere around 250 bucks. That's if you don't have any colors. I would imagine you already have a bunch of the colors, cadmiums, cobalts, burnt umber, raw umber, yellow ochre, titanium white, things like that are pretty common. But again, if you don't have any colors, it's probably going to cost you somewhere in like $250 range. The set I have, I blurred out the price here because they changed it, and I don't know what the price is on Trykel, but they have a brush set. If you want to buy it, you don't have to buy it. You can paint with whatever brushes you already have. Um, but I always try to put things together just to make it so that if you are interested and you just want to buy everything, I just don't have all the paint colors in a set. I mostly use Trykel, even though there's plenty of other brands out there that are fantastic. I also use Gamblin and Michael Harding. And the reason for this is that it gets very, very complex. If you add in a ton more brands, like Williamsburg is fantastic, Vasari is fantastic, Rublev by Natural Pigments are fantastic. Once you add in all those variables, all of the locations of the hues change. Cadmium red in Michael Harding is not the same cadmium red in Gamblin, and the same goes for Williamsburg, and the same goes for Winsor Newton. And therefore, I tried to boil it down into two brands that I think are wonderful. One is like a mid-tier, top mid-tier Gamblin, and then Michael Harding I think is the best paint out there. So you'll see that there's about two variations of my recommended paint colors. I mostly recommend Gamblin, but there is a translation, and I have another color wheel of Michael Harding coming out on the way, which you'll just see that the locations are slightly different than Gamblin's. I sell sphere kits. They're 65 bucks. Essentially, what you get with this is 6 hues. We're all going to paint a white egg the first week. White egg is just a simple form that anybody can get, even though with the price of eggs having gone up, I don't know what they cost anymore. But I would say if you want to, you could buy a white sphere. White spheres are fantastic to have in your studio anyway, and therefore you could break down the concept of form simply. Again, I just activated it. They're 65 bucks on my website. It's because I have to hand paint them all, and some of these take at least 2 to 3 sessions to paint each sphere. And it takes me probably something like at least 3 hours to paint like a whole set. So it's a lot of work. If you don't want to buy the set, then I would paint them myself. You can find all this stuff um, on Amazon or Hobby Lobby or whatever craft store is close to you. Or if you hate all that stuff, you could buy wooden spheres online. If you can't find wooden spheres, you could just go with all the fruit and vegetables. If you don't have fruit and vegetables, I don't know. Paint something in the close hue. Anyway, this is how I do them in my studio. Sometimes I get my daughter Scarlett to help. She loves to help, and it gets fun. I blurred out the prices because some people get angry when they see that I put it as 18.99 and now it's 18 or 19.99. I'm not putting prices on. You go look for what they are. They're 4-inch foam core 12 pack of spheres. They're foam. Uh, Insert any size you want to. You could do a large sphere. You could do a beach ball if you want to. You could do a soccer ball or a basketball. Turn into MacGyver. If you don't know what MacGyver is, go Google MacGyver. It's a fantastic series from the 80s. and he just solves problems, and that's what we do as painters. So anyway, foam spheres are on Amazon. I think they're somewhere in the vicinity of $20. This is an old screenshot because tomorrow is not August 9th. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. Again, traditional color wheel. I don't argue over color wheels. I think arguments are just so silly. If you want to if you want to add in a cyan sphere, go for it. You could just take the notes and then do that as well, but it doesn't particularly matter. Some of you may hate cobalt violet light. That's why I took it out, and now I've replaced it with amethyst. There are ways in which I'll talk about how to take a color off the wheel, and you be sacrificing chroma, because typically some colors are just higher chroma out of the tube, and therefore you'd be sacrificing chroma for a convenience mixture of two colors combined. Michael Harding's amethyst is the one that I've now switched out, which is why I put it in the slideshow. And again, I love this. I love this quote from Faber-Baron. It should be recognized that arguments about color circles may lead to futile debates. Most such differences of opinion are meaningless. At best, a color circle represents a neatly arranged sequence of pure hues about an equator, and almost any well-designed arrangement has merit to it. The Munsell wheel, the traditional wheel, also the additive subtractive wheel. It doesn't matter. They all have every hue in the same order, and we're just mixing to the center, which is just a light to dark version of every color, and therefore there's no point in arguing over color wheels. I also love this by Faber-Baron again. It hammers on the side of what happens if you have too much science in your work. And he says, too much discipline of temperament runs the danger of discouraging the spirit rather than leaving it happily free. Science is essentially intellectual. Art is essentially emotional. And we're trying to thread the needle or think of it almost like a seesaw. Not too much science and not too much emotion. We want a delicate balance when we're working in the representational world. All right, the workshop price, if you're on Patreon, it's $375. It's $325. Sorry, if you're on Patreon, it's $325. So you get a $50 discount. You have to be subscribed at the time that you're doing it. If you're not on Patreon, it's $375. And this is if you want feedback. You want to do the watch only, it's $350, or I think it's $125. So my apologies for saying 120, it's 125. The discount is for the red, the green, not Gren, and violet tiers. The blue tier doesn't get a discount. Alumni of the workshop get 50% off. So if you've taken this in the past, and a lot of the time people come back in because they like the exercises, they like to hear it again the second time. It refreshes them so that they take the book and they kind of go through it to a degree, because we don't particularly go in an order in the book, but I'm touching on a lot of the things that are in the book. Anyway, we get a lot of alumni that come back and take the class again. So we already have, I think, 4 or 5 alumni from the last, who have previously taken this that have come back.